become under pressure and how to reclaim ourselves. What if pressure doesn't just test our patience? What if it reveals our character? What if stress doesn't change who we are? It exposes who we're becoming. And what if the way we respond to small, inconvenient moments tells us more about our healing than our big wins ever could? Today we're talking about who we become under pressure and how to pause, reset, and reclaim ourselves before stress speaks louder than our values. Take a breath and let's get into it. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase, raised by an incredible single mom who is my biggest fan, my number one fan, and my BFF, my best friend for real. I'm a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. Born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, and built in Los Angeles. I trained at Juilliard with the School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion, appearing in over 450 plus fitness DVDs and infomercials. The first of those fitness DVDs was led by the GOAT, celebrity trainer Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity personal trainer myself, I've worked with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee, Dancing with the Stars, and The Masked Singer champion. That's to name a few. And as a sports and entertainment media host, I've had the joy of interviewing Richard Branson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tyler Perry, Tiana Taylor, Justin Baldoni, and Issa Rae. And those are just a few as well. I share my story to honor the sacrifices, the millions of sacrifices my mom planted so that I could blossom into the woman I'm still becoming. So, wherever you're listening from, pull up a digital chair, grab some hot or cold herbal tea, and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8. A 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro living. And I am so overjoyed that you are here. Because this is where we explore life, spirit, mind, and body through lived experiences, mine and yours, and intentional growth. Join me daily for just 15 minutes twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, for allowing grace in this space, and for intentional decision making. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 question to reflect on. Something practical, something grounded, and hopefully something you could carry with you. So, let's take a breath together. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. And let's get ready. Let's get set. And let's grow. We are settled in. And wherever you're listening from right now, if you're driving, walking, cooking, resting, or just pausing, I offer you this as a space to be a soft place for us to land. Because today's conversation was born out of a real live experience, which is why this episode is delayed. It is 9:41, and I was essentially dealing with a real live issue that is going to be a lived experience. So here's today's question. Why do we become, or who do we become? Why do we become people that we're not proud of? But who do we become when things don't go our way? And why do we sometimes become somebody else? So not when everything is aligned, and not when people are kind, and not when systems work, but when we're frustrated, and when things are delayed, and when we're overstimulated, and we're tired, and we haven't gotten enough sleep, and we're hangry because we haven't had anything to eat, and we're pressed for time. Because pressure doesn't create our character, it reveals it. And pressure uses a mirror, right? Because it shows us who we are at the core. And most of us are carrying more than we realize. Deadlines, expectations, grief is a big one. Financial stress, huge. Caregiving, even bigger. And uncertainty. I think that one hits home for a lot of people. So when something small goes wrong, a call drops, a policy doesn't make sense, customer service feels slow, the pressure spills over. And we're not even going to talk about on some platforms in digital spaces how the terms and conditions, like people love to, customer service loves to say, well, did you read the terms and conditions? Really, am I an attorney? I don't know that I read the terms and conditions, or who has time? And suddenly the issue isn't the issue, it's everything else that we've been holding on to, which brings me to key number 1. Pressure reveals what we've been carrying. And pressure doesn't make us impatient. It reveals exhaustion. And pressure doesn't make us sharp. It exposes unprocessed stress and trauma. And pressure doesn't make us unkind. It shows where we need rest, where we need boundaries, and where we ultimately need support. So when your cup is full of tension, the smallest bump causes a spill. So my lived experience in my customer service moment that I just experienced, I had one of these moments, like literally an hour ago, an hour and almost 2 hours ago. A customer service issue. It was time sensitive, and it was inconvenient, and it was extremely frustrating. And I felt myself tightening, but I also started to see where I started to spiral, and I was like, okay, did I get scammed? Like, I went into all of these things that I started to question myself. But in the middle of talking to this customer service representative, after I asked to escalate the matter, something made me pause, because the first person that I talked to, I was a little more venting in my frustration. And then I realized the person on the other end of the line, they're not the CEO. They're doing their job. They didn't design the policy. They didn't create this system. They were simply doing a job, and likely under pressure too. And I've worked in customer service on the phone, and I know what that's like. And they're working on a weekend, and they're possibly exhausted, and they're possibly feeling unseen, and they're possibly dealing with things at home. And they have to shut off and sound nice and get the customer service rating after you do the call, where you have to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. And then I asked myself, how would I want someone to speak to me if I were trying to help them? Now, let me be clear. This doesn't excuse blatant disrespect. And it certainly does not excuse poor or egregious service, because I've experienced that too. And I think sometimes it's necessary to let people have it. But accountability still matters, and standards still matter. But there's a difference between advocating for yourself and unloading your frustrations onto someone who didn't cause the problem. And pressure doesn't give us permission to abandon our values. It reveals whether we're rooted enough to hold them. There's that root. Which brings me to key number 2. Pause is power. The pause is where choices live. When we pause, our nervous system settles, clarity returns, empathy becomes possible. Wisdom can speak louder than our reaction or what we're reacting to. And pausing doesn't mean you're being passive. It means you're being intentional. It allows us to respond, not react. And lived experience and reclaiming my response. In that moment, I slowed my breath, and I chose my tone over tension, and clarity over sharpness, and advocacy over being aggressive. And there's a difference between aggression and being assertive. And what I noticed was this. I got further by being firm and human than I ever would have been if I were loud and reactive and cussing her, which I don't do anyway. But there's an old saying, you get more with sugar than, people like to say the poopy emoji, but I changed it to bitter lemons. Because if you've ever eaten a bitter lemon, because who is eating the poop emoji? Nobody's eating that. But if you've ever tasted a bitter lemon, it like makes you like flinch in a way. Like your body is like, your mouth, it's the whole thing. But beyond the phrase, I changed it to lemons. I changed a lot of sayings. Like when people say you need to KIL two birds, you could with one hand. I say, how about saving? Because I like birds. I'm plant based, so I like birds. So how about saving two birds with one hand? Anyway, but you get more with sugar than you do with bitter lemons. But beyond the phrase, the truth is deeper. How we treat people when we're stressed says everything about who we are becoming, not just in that moment, but also in the future. Which brings me to key number 3. When we can reclaim ourselves, even mid-moment, we don't have to wait until life slows down to heal. We could reclaim ourselves in traffic, on phone calls, in meetings, in conflict, inconvenience. And that takes practice. And every moment of pressure is an invitation. Will we abandon ourselves or anchor ourselves? So let's bring this all together. Pressure is unavoidable. And feeling like the clock is ticking, that is unavoidable. But losing ourselves under it is not. We can pause, take a breath, inhale for 3, exhale for 5, and we can choose to respond and stay rooted. And when we do, we don't just solve the issue in front of us, we strengthen who we're becoming behind the scenes. And maybe that spills over to when you're under pressure with your family, when you're under pressure and someone that you work with is talking to you some kind of way. So being able to calmly speak about something that may have ruffled your feathers. And another lived experience, I remember when I was a fitness expert on the Kris Jenner show, and I watched her, another master class, I watched her have an issue with something, and the way she communicated was almost as if she was questioning the person, like giving them another way to look at it, right? Like, here's how I see it from my perspective. I know this may be your perspective, but it's like she did like a circle around. Like, okay, this is what you're saying, but this is also another perspective because you've also said this. And the way she asked it and presented it was much more tolerable, right? And it would make someone reconsider their stance. And so when we do that, we don't just solve the issue in front of us, we actually strengthen who we're becoming. And when pressure shows up in life, what version of myself do I want to lead with in terms of responding? So that is the question. When pressure shows up for you in your life, what version of yourself do you want to lead with in order to respond? And that's something you could sit with and notice it when you're in a moment that is full of pressure, whether it's in traffic, whether it's a situation with a friend or a friend of me or a coworker or a family member. Like noticing, like in that moment, who am I becoming? And here's the thing about being frustrated and having a temper when you're frustrated is it is a moment. It is a comma and not a period. Because that comma, that's not the totality of who you are, but it is something for us to notice in order to be better. Because imagine if you were on the receiving end, how would you feel? So before you go, thank you truly for sharing this time with me. It has been an honor to sit with you in this space. So let's quickly revisit today's 3 keys. Key number one, pressure reveals what we've been carrying. Key number 2, pause is power. Key number 3, we can reclaim ourselves even mid-moment. And your one question to reflect on, when pressure shows up in your life, what version of yourself do you want to lead with in terms of the response? So if today's episode offered you clarity, grounding, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed, or if anything I shared pricked your heart, or lit a spark, please subscribe. Share this with someone you care about. Leave a comment so that this isn't a monologue, but a dialogue, and leave a 5-star rating. It helps this space to grow. Now let's close with one breath. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central, hopefully. This is Cut to the Chase at 8 with me, Madison Samone Chase. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, grow, and go, and be great. Blessings to you and yours. Until tomorrow.